So hi everyone, and welcome to the second in a series of discussions with social entrepreneurs where we're looking at some of the challenges and issues of running a social enterprise. And I'm really pleased that today I have Jayne Sibley, CEO of Sibstar, with us. Hi Jayne, could you first introduce yourself and say a little bit about Sibstar, how the journey started, where you are right now, and how you actually started the journey in the first place? How was Sibstar born?
Okay. So I'm Jayne. I'm one of the co-founders at Sibstar. I have two parents living with dementia. My dad now lives in a nursing home, but my mum lives at home, supported by me and my brother. So I've been caring for my parents one way or another over about 13, 14 years, and I've learned a lot. And, you know, we've faced many challenges as a family. And really probably one of the biggest challenges, probably the greatest challenges that we faced, has been helping my mum remain financially independent. So as her condition worsened, her ability to understand money and the value of money just lessened, and she was losing money to she was giving money away to people on the street that she met on the street, writing checks, overspending, falling victim to fraud, scams, and the money that she and my dad had worked so hard for all their lives was just frittering away, really. And all the solutions we tried to put in place just didn't really work. And that eventually meant that, unfortunately, we had to take away access to her own money. But the impact on her was significant. It meant that she couldn't go out. It meant she became socially isolated. And that sort of financial exclusion really just sped up her decline. So I just thought there has to be an easier way. There has to be more people like me, more families like us struggling with these same issues. And I just wanted to think of a new way. There had to be a solution out there. So that's where the idea of Sibstar was born. So very much from my own personal experience, my own lived experience of helping my mum.
And I mean, obviously, my next question was around how and why this solution is so important, but actually you've answered that really well. What exactly is the solution? So what's different about the way Sibstar works to, I mean, to be fair, I don't think there's that many solutions like this out there. So you have a very unique proposition, but what, you know, what's really unique about it?
Yeah. So Sibstar is a prepaid debit card for people living with dementia and their carers. So it's a bank card that is loaded with money, and there's an app that sits on the carer's phone. And the money on that card is protected and fully secure. And you can put all sorts of limitations and ways of using the card. So you might set daily spending limits, single transaction spending limits. The card doesn't have a CVV on the back, so that can be revealed in the app. That can protect people against giving their details out over the phone and falling victim to scam insurance policies, which just used to happen all the time to my mum. So it's a way of enabling people living with dementia to remain financially independent, living out there in their communities, taking part, and living life as they know it for as long as possible. Because the minute we took that away from my mum, her world just shrank. My mum's really capable in many ways, but by taking away that financial independence, she just wasn't able to live the life that she could and sort of deserved.
Yeah, it's almost as important as mobility, really, isn't it? If you take someone's mobility, has the same effect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're obviously aiming at people with dementia, but I'm guessing there are other groups of people that would benefit from this as well.
Yeah. So people with dementia are our core audience because that's what we know about, and that's where we've got to start somewhere. So start with what you know, but its applicability to other audiences is just easy to see. You know, any adult who is able to live independently but with the help of a carer could benefit from this. So anybody with some sort of cognitive impairment, acquired brain injury, learning difficulties, you know, and that's really, I would love to see more and more people benefit from a product like ours. I don't think there's anything out there at the moment like it. I think there's various workarounds that this group of people have sort of developed themselves, but there's nothing really that's a sort of a solution in such a way. And I think, just going back to your earlier question, you know, about how we're different and how we want to be innovative, you know, lots of our, you know, our basic product that we'll launch next year, the MVP, will be a fairly basic product. But in order for us to stay ahead and keep learning and keep innovating and keep delivering against the needs of people with dementia, we're going to need to be innovative. So thinking about wearables, so having a chip in a bracelet, or having a tracking device in the app, so you can see and keep an eye on the person that you're caring for, or setting a geographic location around where the card can be used. And if it's used outside of that location, then the carer gets a notification. You know, audio notifications rather than text. So all of these things that we're actually working with people with dementia and their carers at the moment to sort of develop that roadmap of innovation, because that will be really important to us to keep delivering against the needs of the group, because they're quite specific.
Yeah, yeah. And more of a general question. So, you know, what for you have been the greatest challenges on this journey so far? And more of another general question around social enterprises. You know, where do social enterprises go for support? I mean, obviously not just for funding, but for support around building your business. Yeah,
so support wise, that's really interesting. I don't come from a finance background at all. I know nothing about banking, never worked in banking. I come from a marketing and brand background, so it was really important for me to surround myself with people who knew a lot more about this sector than I do. And where I started was LinkedIn. I just built my network, started talking to people. We made a couple of films. A partnership with the Alzheimer's Society definitely opened doors. They were able to connect me with people, and so building that network in that way, and just keeping on sharing our story and talking to people. And actually, I think I've been quite fortunate in that everyone I've spoken to either has direct experience of living with dementia, or have a family member or a neighbour. And people get it quite quickly, and they get the importance of helping this group of people, and we've managed to secure pro bono support from really much more senior people than me, who know a lot more about how to launch a prepaid debit card. So that's really useful. Sorry, what was the first bit of your question?
It was your biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge. So funding, I think, is obviously it's something we've already talked about. I think funding for really idea stage is tricky to come by. We've raised some money privately. You know, we are on the Alzheimer's Society Accelerator Programme. You know, VC, private investor, comes with sort of various sort of strings attached, which isn't a way we want to go down at the moment. So yeah, funding is a real challenge. But also interesting for us, I think, there was sort of a process challenge. You know, we've come at this with a solution already. So because it's come from my lived experience, we really believe in the solution. We really believe it meets an unmet need. So now we've got to sort of backfill that process to go, right, okay, well, how do we then build this thing and then launch it to this group of people out there who we really feel will benefit? So it's sort of the opposite to having this sort of kernel of an idea and then letting it grow and shape it and develop it and see where it lands. It's almost the reverse of that.
Yeah, so I think you've kind of answered my next question, which is around, you know, why social enterprise is so important to address a lot of these issues. So, you know, around narrowing social inequalities, for instance, you know, why social enterprises are so important to address those problems in society where bigger business can't necessarily do that. And I think you have answered that question, but do you want to add anything more to that?
You know, I think the big organisations that we've been talking to, you know, there's a real will to assist us and help us. I think they are bound by regulatory requirements, and there's a certain amount and that they can help us and those strict rules and how they can help us. So I think the will is there, their hands are sometimes tied. I think big organisations perhaps don't have the flexibility and nimbleness to react like social enterprises. Social enterprise bring that passion and that drive and that commitment to see change, and to sort of leap into the unknown and not really, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah.
I hope it will, and I believe it will. And I think you've got to give it your best shot. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, this is kind of an obvious question, but, you know, how and where do you see yourself, let's say this time next year? So where would you like to see Sibstar this time next year?
This time next year, we will have run an MVP. We will have tested it with our customers, getting into the hands of 1,000, 2,000 people, learning from their using the product, and then be ready to scale. So sort of autumn next year, I really hope that we will have learned so much from our MVP and know, right, this is how we do it, this is how we scale, and be ready for that launch and have secured the funding to do that. Because obviously the marketing communications around a product like ours are going to be, you know, significant, and require a lot of investment. So ready for the big launch at the end of next year.
Well, I think if anyone can do it, you can, that's for sure. So a bit of advice for other people out there, you know, I think there's, you know, if you had one nugget of advice to give other social entrepreneurs, what would it be? A difficult one.
Keep going. And I think when in doubt, go back to why you started this journey in the first place. I think doubt is inevitable with anyone setting up a business like this, but just go back to the beginning and say, yeah, this is why I'm doing it, and this is why I thought it was a good idea on day one, and you're probably still right.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much, Jayne. It's been really interesting, and thanks for giving up your time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you where you are and where the journey is in a year. So yeah, we'll see you again then.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.